If you're an NFT holder, you might just be in trouble in the long run. Even blue chip NFTs aren't necessarily impervious to everything going on in the market. I'm going to show you 3 reasons today why I think blue chip NFTs could go to zero. Are you ready? Well, hey there, crypto friends. Thanks again for joining me. Now, when it comes to investing in NFTs, we know this is a risky business. It is a small niche within the crypto sector, albeit a very quickly growing niche. There are a lot of concerns that are going on inside NFTs, and we don't know exactly what they're going to do in the long term. We're just seeing the very first bear market for NFTs. People are not really sure exactly what's going to happen. But I have 3 real concerns today that I think could be a real reason why we could see some of these blue chip NFTs even head to zero. So these are things that we need to take in consideration in the long term as a holder, as some of these top tier NFTs are incredibly expensive, as you guys know, being a Bored Ape Yacht Club holder or purchaser at this time, or CyberKongs, or any of the plethora of other projects that are out there right now, could be a pretty expensive endeavor. So these are things you want to take in consideration when investing, but these 3 things could be real life issues that could take down these blue chip NFTs. Before we jump into that though, if you love gaming, NFTs, metaverse content, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel here and smash that like button, guys. Appreciate it. So there's a couple of reasons here, and some of these are actually major reasons that I think really have a big effect on where we're going with NFTs in the general NFT market, and what could be big roadblocks for these NFTs here in the future. When we look at one of the biggest problems that's facing a lot of NFT projects right now is we're seeing a lot of NFT projects gravitate towards building something like a metaverse, right? They've built out their community and now they're saying, hey, we're building this metaverse, whether it's in something existing like the sandbox or in their own style. We're seeing a lot of projects move towards that, gravitate towards becoming a game, essentially, right? Becoming a game development company. And this puts them in a category of the fact that a lot of games just don't make it in the long run. When we look at the category of games that have made it longer than 10 years, there are just not that many, right? So only a few games over the last decade or so have actually made it for 10 plus years, right? We haven't seen metaverse games really being tested for something like this. So we see AAA games coming out every single year, right? We don't see games sticking around for a long time. There's a few titles, of course, things like Call of Duty are always coming out with a brand new release, or we see like sports games that are coming out and their release titles have 2022 in it, right? It's the one for that year. And so we're kind of trained to be able to pick up new video games consistently and not play them over a long period of time. So there's very few games out there that really last that test of time. You look at Axie Infinity, and then you look at a game like Illuvium that might easily replace Axie Infinity. So why play Axie Infinity when you could be playing something like Illuvium that has much better mechanics? The earning tokenomic structure is well more thought out, increased graphics and gameplay, right? It's an actual fun game to play. So I think that we see this in general, not just with crypto games, but with all games. And when we're starting to see every major NFT project go this direction, saying they're going to create a metaverse, they're going to create a game that you can jump in and use your NFTs in. They need to end up then being the World of Warcraft of the NFT metaverse world, right? Where you end up with 10 different expansion sets for World of Warcraft over the amount of time, because it is like that brand that sticks around. So I think very few of these are going to end up doing this. And what we think of a blue chip NFT today is easily going to be able to be something that could lose favor over the next decade, right? You think what's going to be a blue chip over the next 10 years? Nobody may care about Bored Apes or CryptoPunks at that time. There's a lot of concern there when you talk about tying an NFT's future to the direction of a metaverse game that they're going to be developing, when we see where games end up heading. So a real legit concern here, especially when this seems to be the major focus of these NFT projects now, is developing metaverses. The next concern I have here is a real concern that I think a lot of people don't want to talk too much about here in the NFT community, but it's something that needs to be on your mind, even though it's not something that anybody really likes to hear. But the fact of the matter is, regulation concerns around NFTs have been very gray. There have not been a lot of definition of where they kind of fall into place. We know crypto in a lot of places, in particular the United States, still doesn't have a lot of good regulation around it itself. So let alone a niche of NFTs. When we really look at it, a lot of these NFTs that we're talking about here, a lot of these blue chip NFTs, some of these bigger NFTs could be considered securities. So if you go back and look at it, this may be an actual, a problem here, because there's been so many NFTs sold, but when is that going to be something that we're really going to know? It's not going to be for a while before the SEC or another body gets around to saying, here's how we're going to treat NFTs. So holding these NFTs, something like a Bored Ape Yacht Club, where you're getting free NFTs, you're getting airdrops from those things. Or something like a Cyber Kongs, where you're getting thousands of dollars a month in airdrops from these tokens. Some of these things were promised from the get-go, other things weren't. But I think that no matter what, all of these things point to that these could be deemed as securities, especially here in the United States. Now, I don't think they are, but that doesn't mean that we can't see some regulation coming in very heavy-handed and saying that yes, these things are, and that people are going to have to pay, or some of these companies are going to have to pay, and some of these back wages for some of these gains that they've gotten, right? So we really don't know a lot about where regulation is going to come in here, and where staking of NFTs is going to lie, right? There's a lot of different gray areas there. Getting some of these airdrops. Where do airdrops live? You have an original NFT that was promised airdrops, or some sort of revenue for you from your NFT in general. So, the lack of kind of regulation there is just something that, that we're going to have to look out for. And hopefully it doesn't crush what we're seeing here in NFTs in general. We know that the people that are trying to regulate cryptocurrency, especially here in the United States, are definitely not doing the best job here. So maybe they can go mess with Mongoose Coin, but don't mess with NFTs and change what we're doing here for the worst, right? That's what we were just really hoping, that we get something that is fortuitous to the growth of NFTs in general. Now, the last thing that is actually a real problem here when it comes to NFTs, to blue chip NFTs, it doesn't matter how successful your NFT is, this last problem is one that can be very susceptible for anybody in NFTs in general, and it can completely destroy a project. So I call this one the founder's dilemma. Right, this is when you see a project become very successful and then kind of fall back on the wayside because they're so successful, and kind of abandon their project, or don't do much on the project anymore and kind of do a slow rug pull, right? To quote Marvin Hagler, the former middleweight champion, it's tough to get out of bed and do road work at 5 a.m. when you're sleeping in silk pajamas. And that's what I'm talking about, man. Trying to get out of bed when you're living that luxe life is hard. When you'd rather just sleep in. You're like, why get out and do anything here? So we see a lot of founders, I think, falling into this dilemma. They have a project in mind, it blows up, and then they don't realize how much work it's going to be, all the things they got to take in consideration. Then because they don't do any of these things, then we see things like hacks, features being misused, and tokens being allocated when they shouldn't, and we just time and time again. So we start to see this problem with these founders just not putting the time in because they just don't care anymore, or because they've already gotten rich. So they're like, whatever, right? We just saw this with Azuki, where the owner essentially said, yeah, I have 3 previously failed projects that we just walked away from. And then you're talking about, okay, well, this is a top 5 project by volume right now, and where's the accountability? And so I think we're going to start to see this more and more. Projects that are essentially, the founders are just going to walk away, or they're going to slow rug you, where they just stop doing things slowly over time, which is what we're seeing with some other projects here, possibly. That just don't want to continue to do stuff, right? And not to say that it can't be the reverse, where a project is abandoned and then out of nowhere somehow gets picked up and revitalized. We just talked about Teo Robots on the channel not too long ago. If you want to check that out, go see the Soul video I did, where I mentioned this about blue chip NFTs on Soul. But huge comeback story for that kind of NFT, and for other communities we're seeing this. So hopefully Azuki figures out their problems there. But the problem with founders really, just not being legit here and walking away from even some of the top projects is a pretty big concern. Not just for the current blue chip NFTs, but for ones in the near future as well. So if you're a blue chip NFT holder, or just an NFT holder in general, these are all concerns you really want to take in consideration with holding NFTs over a long period of time. A lot of this stuff, it is in this kind of up in the air kind of situation. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. It could be complete catastrophe here over the next couple months, and we have a Luna type situation where these NFTs literally lose 95 to 99% of their value overnight. A lot of people think it can't happen. It can. Make sure you're prepared for a scenario just like this, and hopefully this gave you a little bit of food for thought. So that's all we have for today, folks. Until next time, stash that crypto, friends.